Welcome to another episode of Design Theater. Today we are looking at the character design artist Gouge Wu. As usual, I'm sure I mispronounced this guy's name. Anyway, the link to his work is in the description below. And yeah, we're going to flip through some of his character designs. I'm going to point out some of the design elements it is that I see in this guy's work. I mean, he's got like a tremendous style. And it's something that I'm trying to learn from and trying to bring into my own work as I'm putting down character designs for my own personal project right now. And I mean, I love stuff like this. You know, I'm not huge on the anime aesthetic, but I appreciate great design. I think design, when it's done correctly, really helps sell your idea. I mean, it is pretty much your idea, right? Like you can say, for example, if we take a look at these drawings, for number one, the number one thing that I noticed is that they're all color coordinated, right? So you have a purple character, you have a red, and then you have a yellow character. And each one of those has not only a specific color, but they also have a specific idea or a specific shape that is expressing that idea, right? So here you have this kind of like cute but menacing kind of aesthetic going on that you see a lot in the anime stuff. And so you have the character, she's very cute, and then you have these opposing arms or these giant robot arms that are very menacing looking, right? And so you could say in a sense that this drawing is very square based, right? So like I've mentioned in previous posts, you can go through here and you can start looking for the way it is that rectangles are used, right? You can see squares here. You can see them here. You can see them in the hands, but not only in the hands, but in the gears of the hands themselves. They're all squares. Even a shape like this, is a square in a sense, right? It's not completely square, but it is within that same genre, right? Because you have a square, a circle, and a triangle. That's what I'm talking about. Which one do these shapes tend towards? Which one do these shapes tend towards? Well, this is not a triangle. These are not triangle shapes. These are rectangular shapes, right? And then we always have this opposing element. We always have this contrasting element within each one of these drawings. That we have these squares, even here, we have these squares, right? Even in the design of the clothes, we have these squares. And then what do we have as a contrasting element? We have these triangle-like shapes for the ears, right? Which is cool. And then they're even kind of like flip back right here too, which I think that's really cool. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look at the next one. And like I said, I'm going to kind of breeze through these. I think I'm probably going to do a more thorough analysis of this guy's work at some point. Oops, I'm zooming out too much. Sorry guys, this happens. My laptop likes to do this to me sometimes. I'll probably do a more thorough analysis of this guy's work at some point. Like some breakdowns, some more deeper breakdowns, but we're just going to go through some of the basic stuff. Here, I mean, obviously the shape is triangle, right? We see it in the hair. We see it in the blade. We see it in even the tips of these shapes. These tips of these shapes on the shoes, they have a triangular kind of shape. You could say that the way that the pants come down it's very triangular, and that like it's coming down to a point, right? And then you also see this here in these forms, right? So there's a lot of use of that, like even in the way it is that the jacket folds and that sort of thing. Here, clearly this is a circle-based drawing, right? We see the circle. Where do we see it? Well, we see it in the gears of the arm. The breasts are obviously very circular. We see it on her chainmail on here. We see it here. You could even say there's like some sort of a jewel that's being held by this triangle shape, and I would say that's a circular shape being held by a triangular shape. And again, the contrasting element, the contrasting shape, is this triangle element. So it's a circle-based drawing with triangles accentuating things. Or I guess in some ways you could say this is actually much more of a triangular drawing with a circular accent. So yeah, that's the way you can think of it. You can think of it as like the shapes themselves, they have specific, this is really cool. They have specific properties, things that they communicate to the viewer, right? And so you want to pick the one that's telling the story. I love this shot because, for one thing, he has the strong foreground element here, right? He's got this strong foreground element, and then we have like this. It kind of reminds me of like one of the final levels of the last Doom game, where it's like this alien race, but it was like an angelic alien race or something. There's a forced perspective to this, which gives it this kind of like otherworldly kind of feel to it. I mean, it gives it a kind of a religious feel to it. And then we see this figure here in the middle, and all these other figures down here. You know, notice that this foreground element falls into on the third of this image, right? So whereas the main focal point is very symmetrical in its design, he keeps the design from feeling too boring by throwing in this asymmetrical element of this foreground element into the drawing. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Yeah, I mean, this guy has like insane design skills going on. I love the design of these mechs. I think they're just really dope. We're gonna flip through a couple of these before I draw over any others, because there's several images we want to get through. Some iterations of the idea of a guard. Oh my god. Stupid laptop. Okay. So he's got this symbol over here on the left. He's got this left symbol over here. And you can see that he's expressing that symbol in different ways, in a sense, right? Just in the same way that we have this is going up and it's reaching this circular shape right here, right? Or the same sort of thing. It's going up, and then obviously we see the circular shape there, but he broadens and changes. Let me zoom in here. He broadens it so that these leading lines that would typically lead to this spherical shape are instead leading to all of this detail that's being held here. Right? Very deliberate. You can also say the same thing for the way it is that you have shapes that don't have a lot of detail versus shapes that have a lot of detail. Like we see in this variation of the same character, there's not as much detail in the arms as there is in the head and the torso, right? So the closer it gets to the focal point, the more detail, the more smaller shapes we have. So again, it's playing with that same concept of big shapes, little shapes, medium shapes. I mean, this is a crazy drawing of the Pope. It's like Metal Gear Pope or something. I like this. It's pretty cool. Although I'm curious what the story is. I don't really get it, but it's very cool. So you have the roster of characters here. All right. He does a really good job of like lining up these characters and showing them not only in an environment in a sense, but they're all they all fit together, right? I mean, really, it's only three designs because you have the two guards, you have two sets of two guards, both of them are holding the flags, and then you have this Pope character, this evil Pope character. And then we have stuff like this. I love stuff like this because it reminds me of like, I don't know, it reminds me of like an old JRPG that I used to play on PlayStation. I think it was called like Front Mission or something like that. Yeah, this reminds me of that. I really dig that. I love the way that he positioned his characters. You know, it shows that like even if when you create the characters, you don't, and you're putting together a portfolio for concept design of characters, you know, you don't have to have like a super elaborate background. Another really cool design. You can see again how he repeats certain ideas throughout the whole piece because you want shapes that are shapes that are big and small, and you want to take like you want to create a theme around a specific idea, a specific visual idea, or a specific visual motif, and then put that into different elements of it. So you can see that in these kind of like chainsaw these chainsaw elements, right? She's got it on the shoes, but then she's also got it like coming from behind her back. And then you can also say that these little things jutting out from her arm are kind of similar in that respect. Really cool. I'm curious if these are like his personal stuff or if this is like for a game or something that he's working on. Yeah, very symmetrical design, but it's very strong in terms of his ability to render, while at the same time not really having too much of a render. That's what I like. I like stuff that has like a balance between it, something that feels stylish like a cartoon. All right, so we got a few left. Let's go ahead and get through some of these cool character designs. Very cool. It's another layout of characters. This kind of reminds me of Akira a little bit. I love the way that he did the vest here and her and the texture of her pants. Oh man, it's really cool. Very, very cool. And it kind of goes along with the detail here. You could say that like the red shapes in a sense and the dark shapes of her and the bike are very similar in a sense, right? Because you have these red shapes because you have these red shapes here that are holding these yellow shapes, right? These yellow shapes are very desaturated. But these red shapes, they're very open. There's not a lot of detail. There is some detail, but there's not a lot, right? And the contrasting element of that is these these tires, right? And then we also see that same sort of thing going on with her in the suit. We see that these red shapes, they're very open, right? They're very open shapes. Right? Same thing with this down here. There's not a lot of detail going on there, but in a sense, they kind of sandwich all of this extra detail that's in here of her, I guess, cyborg body or uniform or whatever, right? Cool character design as usual. This is kind of more of a process. Looks like he's dropped his flats in. He's coming back in with some shadow, and then from his shadow he's creating highlights and then dropping in this awesome sword here. definitely something to follow along to. I dig this. I really dig these things going into this guy's back. I think this is really cool. Here's a breakdown. You know, if you do character design, which is something it is that I do, you have to do a lot of stuff like this. Yep. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it here. Like I said, you can find links to his work in the description below. And at some point, I'm going to be doing another more sophisticated breakdown of maybe this guy's work or other character designers' work. I'll be having continuously more videos coming up showing some of my own process stuff for my comic, as well as some of the design stuff that I'm doing for it. All right, guys, I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Take it easy.